Hi, friends. For the past few weeks, we've been journeying with the Israelites in the desert. They had been enslaved for 400 years. Think about that. The United States is not even 250 years old. When they followed Moses into that desert, they were headed for a home they never knew. Perhaps after 400 years, they had never even heard of it. Being enslaved means not having control of your own life, not what you own, what you eat, where you live, how you spend your time and energy. You are not your own. They are rescued and propelled into the wilderness where they are free. They might not even have known what that meant. They found themselves in the middle of nowhere, no longer enslaved, but not yet free. They needed to figure out who they were as free people. They were obviously having a hard time coming together as a community, people free to act however they wanted to complain without fear, to make their voices heard. So at the foot of Mount Sinai, they gathered, and God gave them some rules they could follow in order to live together peacefully. Don't lie, kill, or steal, or want what is not yours. Be faithful to those who raised you and to those you are married to. Honor your God, the one who made you. Those were baseline behaviors for these people to work on. I don't believe they were meant to be measurements of one's righteousness in God's eyes. They had to figure that out for themselves and learn to become who God meant for them to be, His people who listened to Him and walked in the ways He would show them. St. Paul confesses that he used to be one of those who believed that all the rules would make him righteous. He says, "You couldn't get any better at following the rules than I was." And then, once he met Jesus on that dusty road to Damascus, everything for him changed. He realized that for all his rule following, for all his impressive pedigree, he was no closer to God. Let me read to you a paraphrase of what we heard Paul say a few minutes ago. This is from an Australian priest who has a liturgy website called Laughing Bird. If anyone starts bragging about their breeding and background to win an audience, I could trump them every time. I have a pedigree to die for. I am a pure-blooded Israelite born into the noble tribe of Benjamin. I was circumcised when I was 8 days old, exactly as the law prescribes. I was educated by the Pharisees at the best school, so I know the scriptures inside and out. And discipline and obedience are second nature to me. I was so pumped up with passion for the purity of religion that I led violent campaigns against declared heretics, including the church. You could measure me against the strictest interpretations of the law, and I would come out with a perfect record every time. Most people would count all this as the perfect start in life, but I have come to see it as a disadvantage. Why? Because of the Messiah. You see, the one and only thing that is of real and lasting value is knowing the Messiah, Jesus, my Lord. And I now realize that just about everything else gets in the way of that. That is why I've stopped counting my so-called blessings. I used to think that such things gave me the inside running with God, but I now regard such thinking as a lot of crap. I have given up clinging to such crappy ideas so that I can give myself totally to the Messiah and be embraced fully by Him. I am no longer interested in how I measure up to any checklist of religious laws, however worthy it may be. God's checklist is the only one that matters to me now, and it only has one item on it. All those who trust Christ get the big tick from God. What I really want now is to know Christ intimately and to experience in my own life the power that raised him from the dead. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll take my share of his sufferings. I'll follow him on the road to death if need be, because the only thing that matters to me is to be united with him in his resurrection life. I'm not claiming for a moment that I've made it or that I've now got it all together. There's a long way to go. But at least I'm now on the right track, and I'm not giving up. I know I'll make it because the Messiah is backing me all the way. My friends, I don't see myself as the expert in these things, but I know enough to be sure of which way to go. I'm taking no further interest in the successes or failures of the past. I've got my eyes firmly fixed on what God has called me to become, and I won't let anything stop me until I cross the line and fall into the waiting arms of Christ. Paul was transformed and came to understand his journey was all about figuring out what God had called him to become, about knowing God, not about trying to please God by making sure he followed all the rules better than anyone else. That is what freed Paul from the law. Jesus Christ called him into a deeper relationship with God, not the rules. His path changed as he walked closer to God. As he says, he still followed the rules, but now he's on the right track. He no longer lets his obsession with them get in the way with what is real and life-giving and liberating. A relationship with God, the God who made him and calls him to become more like him. May God give us the grace and power to walk the path before us, faithfully as a community and more closely with our God. Amen. God bless you all.